throw something together. So very happy that you were able to join us. And I just said, I know you published a translation of The Wizard of Oz in Klingon. Can you talk about something like that? So I'm excited to hear what you've come up with at the last possible moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just want to say my presentation that I put together is about something that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is the Klingon language and the Klingon language community, and sort of the things that have been happening within the last year, basically since everything went into lockdown, and sort of the the disadvantages and the advantages of that. And some of the things that have happened. So let me just jump right into it. Oh, there we go. So just a little bit about me. I'm a conlanger, of course, and I'm also incredibly interested in constructed language communities. And currently I'm working on a Master in Fine Arts with a focus on sort of using constructed languages in a fine arts context, and using conlangs as an art form, rather than something that, for example, would be shown in another piece of art, so sort of secondary to a larger work of art. So these are some images of some things that I've done over the years. I first got involved in Klingon 4 years ago, and have loved it ever since. I studied it very intensely, and became conversational quickly. And then I think I'm at a level where I can say that I'm fluent, and have gotten to know some wonderful people within the Klingon language community. That's what this says right here, Klingon Chol Nuch. And here are some pictures of some events that have happened around the Klingon sphere prior to lockdown, of course. And the history of the Klingon language community, I won't go too much into it, but it's very similar to the history of language inventors. It really took off. It was invented in 1983 for Star Trek III, when the studio decided to make a language because the Klingons were going to be the bad guys in the third movie. And then, some people picked it up here and there in the 80s, but really took off in the 90s when a whole bunch of people got internet and they could talk to each other, and then eventually they could meet up, right? And so the Klingon Language Institute formed. First came the Kep-A, which is the big meeting, and then came the Kep-Chom, which has in recent years been renamed the Kep-Chom-A, the major minor meeting, which is in Germany. And prior to lockdown, there were a couple of other physical KEPS meetings that were starting to happen. For example, there was the Louisville, or Louisville, as they say in Louisville, KEP, which happened. It was a one-day event, but it was amazing. There was supposed to be a Klingon meeting for French speakers in France in April of last year, which got moved online, unfortunately. But hopefully once everything opens back up again, we'll be able to do that. There was a flurry of Klingon language activity in Chicago, which is historically been, for whatever reason, the city where a bunch of Klingon things happen. There's the Klingon Christmas Carol. A number of big personalities within the community live there. So much so that there's a slang word, "chik," which means to be, or to be a Klingon language, a Klingon speaker from Chicago or who associates with Chicago, which is a very specific slang word. During this time, we have been really since we can't go out and do PEPs, we have, been communicating online, and we've been busy at work, making literature for one another. And here I just want to detail, when I say that I write Klingon literature, people are a little bit, taken aback. It's very nerdy, it's very niche, but there's some reasoning behind it. So why? First off, it's fun. It's a great deal of fun to do. We're really opening up the variety of text that you can engage with in Klingon. When I learned Klingon, there's a significant amount, but there wasn't a whole bunch. I remember the first time that I read through an entire book in Klingon, and it was an amazing experience. But unfortunately, there's not this great depth that say in literature that say Esperanto has, because Esperanto has been around for longer. There's a sort of more established vocabulary. There's a lot more speakers. So anyway, and then another reason is that it keeps community members involved, and it really encourages creativity, and it really develops this common sense, of culture, really, a shared imagination. And then finally, this is a reason that I really want to underline. As the community grows, it would be great if we could get out of Paramount and CBS's shadow. When I say that I speak Klingon, people will say, "Oh, you must be a huge Star Trek nerd." I do like Star Trek, but really, it's the language that's keeping me, so interested. And it's just a beautiful language that I want to keep on speaking. And yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about the historical, sources of literature that we have in the Klingon language community. So going back all the way to the 90s and the early 2000s, we have jatlhDeSDu, which isn't written in Klingon, but it is the first publication that's specifically dedicated to Klingon, made by Klingon speakers. And this was a journal that was released quarterly, and sort of presented the controversial linguistic topics of the day. And that ended, unfortunately, I think in 2005. Similar to jatlhDeSDu, but a bit different, because it's actually written in Klingon. Everything in it is written in Klingon. Is Jotme, which means tongues all over the place. And it was a short-lived but incredible publication for original poetry and fiction. So in this, it's mostly poetry, and there's usually like one short story per issue, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've read them. And there's only 4 of them, but they're incredible to see. And it's like a little time capsule looking back into to the early days of Klingon. Since then, we've had a lot of books that have been released. We have Hamlet, which is Hamlet, Pachmuk Tinmish, which is the translation, the restoration of the original Much Ado About Nothing, written by Shakespeare, the great Kronos playwright. Gilgamesh, again, a great restoration. Pin Kan Pak Ditnor, which is the Tao Te Ching. Shun Pin Vesh Mu, that's the Art of War. The Pakbat, which chronicles the epic story of Kalis, the Unforgettable. Tapukmach, which is the Little Prince, and Nukbot Boom, which is an original novel, the first until relatively recently only Klingon language novel. And getting through that thing is a challenge, because it's fairly long in terms of in comparison to a lot of these other works, but it's very satisfying to get to the end and say, wow, I read a novel in Klingon. It's amazing. So just going back to that list, this is our corpus up until 2020 of books published in Klingon, more or less. There have been some others that I haven't put on here. For example, I think somebody did an adaptation of Green Eggs and Ham with Kar, which is a Klingon worm dish. I haven't put those on there, but those exist, and I want to give those credit. So in this past year, these are just some of the things that have come out. So already, you can probably already notice there's quite a lot. On the top left here, the orange book, that's the Gospel of Thomas. Next to that, there is Notes from a Painter by Henri Matisse. In the year 2889 by Jules Verne. My thing is covered up here. jatlhDeSDu, which is a book of haiku that I did. There is Shormach in the middle right here. That is a collection of two stories and one long form poem that I did. Chidwit the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. And this year, when we all went into lockdown, my quarantine project was to translate the Wizard of Oz, which you can see here. And so, yeah, this has been a really great year for translation and for original works, both. Another thing that's been happening in the Klingon sphere is that Jotme, these meetings, which unfortunately cannot happen in person, have been happening online. In the summer, I ran the DoKep, which is the speed meeting, which would happen for 15 minutes every day. So everybody had an opportunity to speak Klingon every day, conversationally. And then the Kap, which happened for I don't know how many weeks in a row, but it was a long time, and we record them, and you can actually check them out on my Klingon YouTube channel, which I'll give the information for at the end. This has sort of just been growing, and to the point where we have realized, we can use this newfound technology to sort of keep on building the momentum that has been spurred on by Discovery and by Duolingo, and even before then by Star Trek Into Darkness, when a lot of people started learning the language. And Klingon kind of got this second wind of energy. To the point where now we have, as you can see down below, there's the Klingon Language Institute event calendar, and we have events every single day, and I looked throughout the entire month of March, and it's the same for each week, which is really incredible. I would not have thought that possible maybe 2 years ago. So it's pretty amazing. So everybody, so in the Klingon language community, there is a lot of talent, and the problem is that people will post a poem or a translation or an original short story here and there, and then it just stays on a chat forum, and a lot of people might not see it. And so my goal, seeing this, I thought to myself, well, there could be a way where we could make our own magazine or our own publications and sort of bring all of this talent together and expose it and show it to one another in sort of a more organized way. And so in September of 2019, I started this online publication called Eshvev, which is a play on words. It's there's this Klingon rhyming game, this Klingon language game called lochpod, which means backwards language. And you take every syllable and you turn it around individually, except for pronomial prefixes, you don't. But everything else you do. And so this is the lochpod version of Shetvir, which means publication. And so that's how the name of the publication came about. And every month we would have about 30 pages of on average of short stories and poems and such, and drawings. It was really wide open. Unfortunately, I put an end to it a couple of months ago because we just weren't getting enough submissions for it. On the other hand, in May of last year, I started another magazine called Cours, and this again is that same luchpod, turning the syllable around. So this means disaster in regular Klingon, but when you turn it around, it means ruk, which translates as poem. And I actually have one of these right here. Maybe I'll show it when I've finished sharing my screen. This is a magazine that's dedicated to showcasing mostly short form original poetry. We do put in translations, but we really prefer to have original poetry. A lot of haiku, a lot of free verse. Yeah. And this comes out every 2 months. And we have a lot of people who submit every month. As you can see right here, some people are in there a couple of times, myself included. But still, month after month, we keep on getting submissions in. So this is the cover page next to the table of contents for one of the latest editions. Okay, so personally, so that's an opportunity that I've been trying to create for people within the community to, show off their talent, right? And I want to keep on trying to develop that. Personally, I've been writing my own short stories. These are a couple of covers for some short stories that I've been writing and putting out on my own. These are usually like around 1,500 words. And also within this past year, I took the extra time at home to write the second Klingon language novel, which will hopefully come out very soon. It's called Jotme, The Two Capitals. And this is, it's a fantasy novel, and this is a map from that. Also in this past year, we've had a number of film translations. So Nosferatu here has been translated into Klingon, as has The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and The Night of the Living Dead. Now you'll notice that all of these they're all public domain, so we're sort of constrained to only using public domain films. The first two are silent films because one of the big challenges is, how do we dub this? It's not the easiest thing in the world to get everybody with the same recording equipment, so we have the same quality of sound coming in, unless one of us wants to do the sound, the voices for everybody, which I'm not a big fan of. And Night of the Living Dead at the end there is just subtitled rather than dubbed. But there is a piece of technology called 15.ai, and you may know it. It's a voice generator. And I hope one day they will add IPA so that we can create voices using that, and then dub movies in Klingon using that. So I just want to highlight some of the work that other people have been doing. So there is a wonderful Klingon speaker named Juliana, and she has been making a musical blog, and it is amazing. It is a rock opera called Klevlut, the story of Klev. And you can look it up on YouTube. It is amazing. It follows the story of Klev, who wants to go off and write their own song after they go and visit the Hall of Heroes. It's really great. And it's still a work in progress. Every couple of weeks, there's a new song that comes out, and we get a little bit more of the story of Klev. Jen Bohm has also put out a new EP. I think it was 2 days ago. If you don't know who Jen Bohm is, she is amazing. She is the Klingon pop warrior, and she does renditions of popular music in Klingon. And her newest EP is called Tapmedun Bomedun. And I know that She has had some extra time to work on this, again, as a result of the pandemic, but again, just showing some of the silver lining in this bad situation. Journally has also exploded. This is, if you don't know what Journally is, it is a platform where you can write in a language that you are learning, and get comments and corrections from more experienced speakers. And I put this in here because some of the writing that gets put on there is actually quite good, and I think that the seeds have been planted for further development of the Klingon literary corpus. I think that the future writers of the community and future translators are on there right now. I've also been trying to sort of take that Eshriv and Kul energy and funnel it in a way that can be useful for the wider conlang community. And so I created last year Vadim, which is sort of the same idea of Eshriv, collecting art and poetry and short stories, and really any sort of document, and putting it all together into one book. And this comes out quarterly. As a matter of fact, there's still time to submit for Vadim 3. This is where I shamelessly promote Vadim. The deadline is March 10th. What you need to do is you need to give me, you need to send to this email address, robok@gmail.com, which means help us if you capitalize as Q, or ally with us if you leave it as a lowercase q. You need to send me a work that you have done or a translation in a conlang of yours, the English translation, and perhaps a little bit of information on the conlang, so that we can know a little bit more about it. And you need to do that as a PDF or a Word document. So here are some URLs I encourage everybody to go to. There is there's KLI.org, which is the Klingon Language Institute's website, Klingon.wiki, where you can find out more information on original literature that's being done in Klingon, Tlavlut's website, and again, the Klingon Pop Warriors website. My website is DeSDu.com. You can find me on Twitter and also on YouTube with jatlhDeSDu. And that's it from me.
Thank you so much. Or I'm probably going to get the wrong prefix here, but Shatlonesh.
That was the wrong prefix, but I appreciate the sentiment.
that was we thank y'all, isn't it?
It's I thank y'all.
I thank. I tried without looking it up, for the record.
Yeah. And I thank y'all, Your Honor.
Yes, honorific. We